I like your hula dancer.
Heck yeah, man.
Isn't that cool? Like, look at my thing.
Keep calm and live aloha.
Yep, I love it. That's a tiny little water bottle, Mom.
That's from Joanne.
How's that little tiny water
Well,
bottle?
I figure I can siphon some off.
Oh, yeah. You've got
So where are we go? We're not going into the Pentagon parking lot. We're going to be let off on a street near it, or?
Yes, at Boundary Channel Drive.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, this is really...
Okay, so on the special 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, I'm honored to be down here with one of my heroes, my mom, and then another hero of mine, my sister, Whit. My mom worked here at the Pentagon on the day the attack happened, and she wanted to come and do the same walk that she did to evacuate the Pentagon and go up into Arlington to one of our relatives' houses. She's going to tell us a little bit about her story as we do this walk today. So, Mom, where are we right now? Like, we're right...
We're right at the evacuation part for our office, the J6 on the Joint Staff. Our office came down to this flagpole, and we waited in this area.
So you came all the way from, there's the Pentagon right there, the river entrance. And what did you see up in the sky when you came out of the Pentagon?
The huge black cloud going up into the sky.
And it was a blue sky, right? Except for the
no
smoke.
clouds. No clouds.
No clouds.
Are you ready to walk down the steps?
Yeah, let's go walk down.
Can you tell a little bit about that when it was 20 years ago, there wasn't this large highway?
Oh yeah, there was no super highway there. Just this little boundary channel.
This 2-lane road right here was only the thing that it had.
It was safe to walk over.
It was safe, yeah.
We don't dare walk over that over there.
Right.
So you exited the Pentagon there through the parking lot and crossed this 2-lane street here. And then where was your office, Mom?
Further around in one of the rings.
So it's not on this side?
Well, it is on the river side, but there are like 5 sides, and we were about one side over.
One side over from the river side? Okay.
It's so pretty down here.
I remember coming down these steps and over here to the shade.
And what did you bring with you?
Nothing. Nothing.
Hi.
I changed from my high heels into my flat shoes, fortunately, when I left the building. So I at least have flats on to walk. Okay, right here. Oh, come on up here. I remember an officer in uniform laying here, and he was trembling. He was in shock. It was strange for me to see a man in uniform shaking. And here were 3 ladies seated on this, and their legs had received glass shards, and their nylons were ripped, and their legs were bleeding.
Yikes.
And we waited here, and then the guys in my office had a car come and pick them up here to take them to Camp David, but I couldn't go because I don't have the security clearances for Camp David. So I had to stay by myself, and so they went off and left me. And right here, as I'm getting ready to walk to Aunt Susan's house, because that's the only thing I could think to do, there was a black thing laying on the ground, and it looked like a black banana peel. And I thought, what is a banana peel doing laying on the concrete? So for some reason I reached over and I picked it up, because I always pick up trash.
Even after a terrorist attack, you're picking up trash?
But I picked it up, it unfolded, and there was my general's 3 stars, 3 silver stars. It was his beret.
Can you tell us the name of your general?
Lieutenant General Shea. Kellogg.
Kellogg, yeah.
General Kellogg. And so the next day, I took him his beret. In the meantime, he left without a hat, which a general officer just doesn't like to do. And on his way to Camp David, he commandeered some other poor soldier's hat.
Probably not the same rank, I'm
But
sure.
No,
No insignia
So
on
when
it.
you're
at least it was a beret.
when your office left to go to Camp David, were you the last one here? Did they
Yeah.
evacuate
There were a bunch of people
the people
here.
that were in shock, or there were still people here
Oh yeah.
before you left?
The poor officer that was in charge, his group was around him, tending to him. The ladies, I don't know what happened to them, but I finally just decided I had to start walking. And so we walked up that way.
And you couldn't call anybody. You couldn't call from the
No
office.
cell phones.
No cell phones. And so you just decided to go to Aunt Susan's, and you didn't even know if she was home.
Right, I was off the radar for about 2
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, you were.
Did you tell anybody you were walking, or you just made the decision on your own to just go?
No, I didn't tell anybody. It was just that.
Your own decision
Yeah,
to go.
I thought I can't stay
So
here.
yeah, it's you know,
I
being
didn't-
off the radar, off the
and I
grid
didn't know
for
how
2
to get to
hours.
the buses because
Yeah.
everything was in chaos.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know if the buses would have been running.
Yeah, I think everything was shut down.
All right, so that was my mom's story as she left the Pentagon, and now we're going to start off on this walk that's probably about 3.5 miles, we're thinking. We're going to map it out, but it's going to be the exact same route that my mom took on that day 20 years ago.
back then that was all grass over there, so I could cut over that way. I didn't come up these steps over there. And the helicopters were lifting off and taking the severely wounded.
And then, Mom, so you were walking, but you probably weren't walking alone, like a ton of people walking
Oh
too.
yes, oh yes. Yeah, I joined the crowd.
So it's kind of like a mass exodus, but you didn't really know.
How many helicopters do you estimate were there?
Well, at least 4 on this side. I don't know how many were on the other side of the building. But a lot of people were walking this way because there's north parking. And
Oh,
people
so they were
parking
headed towards their cars
their
too.
car, but I didn't
But you
have a
took the
car.
bus, so right,
Yes.
yeah, you couldn't get
Right,
to a
so-
car.
And anyway, this street was, I could walk faster than these cars. They were bumper to bumper.
So, Mom, I remember part of your story was you were hiding behind a Jersey barrier, and then you heard there was a second plane inbound.
Well, actually, I wasn't behind a Jersey barrier.
Or you were,
I was right there.
you were right there, and then that's when you heard that there was a second plane coming.
Right, and then a few minutes later, F-15s or F-14s
Yeah.
flew deck level right over us, which was kind of intimidating.
Going northbound, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, heading that way.
Yeah.
They flew from there. And to have them screaming right over the top of you it shook your nerves.
And
Especially when you heard them coming.
Yeah.
And you didn't know if they were ours
So
or theirs.
those were the jets that were going to intercept the second
Right.
reported plane in Flight 93.
yeah,
right.
Flight 93
That's right.
that supposedly was going to aim for the Capitol.
Right.
But you
And-
didn't know where. It could have been here again, or
We didn't know where it was in.
Yeah.
But one of those jets was piloted by that woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whose father was in the air at the same time in a civilian passenger plane.
That's amazing.
And yeah.
And she took off without any weapons.
Yeah. So it would have
She
been
would
a
have rammed her plane
yeah.
into theirs.
It would have been a
And I think had presidential approval.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're still walking, and the Pentagon's just over our shoulders. You can see it in the background. My mom said that she was part of the big crowd, and everybody was just kind of doing. Well, nobody knew it was. Well, you knew it was a terrorist attack because already the World Trade Centers had been hit. Right. Okay, so we're at the point where we're leaving the Pentagon parking lots. And it's right there. My mom would have seen the smoke rising up over the Pentagon, but you can't see the damage on this side of the building because it's on the side facing the Air Force Memorial. But right here is what?
Well, it's our walkway.
Yeah.
Arlington Cemetery, George Washington Parkway.
Yeah.
This is the way I walked.
Up onto the road to get away from the Pentagon.
And then how was the crowd here? Was it thinning out at this point or
No,
still crowded?
No, still. People streaming around.
So many people did not
Still walk.
park. They were just opting to walk. Okay.
Okay, well, let's go.
across over at the Pentagon. On that day, I was teaching in DC, and they weren't letting, the teachers had to stay until all the children were picked up. So it took a long time. I don't really recall what time I was able to leave. It was probably like maybe 4:35 in the evening, and by that time the roads were deserted. Washington, D.C. was like a ghost town. And I was heading out across the 14th Street Bridge to go down 395, and you could see the Pentagon off to the right, and the smoke, the black pluming smoke, moving off towards the left from my view. So it was really, really awful feeling to be one of the only cars out on the road.
Almost
at
like
that
the
point.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah, at that point nobody was out.
It was like the Twilight Zone.
What time was that? You got through the school day, right?
Yeah, so
and then you waited for the parents to pick up the kids,
Yeah,
and then you got to leave.
So it was probably around 4:35, I'm imagining, in the day. And by that time, people had already evacuated and gotten out of the city.
And in the meantime, I want to say, my wonderful son was with my mother all afternoon until I got home. My mom, who must have been worried out of her mind.
Especially when you're doing this walk and you have no cell phone and you're out of the contact. All we knew was you were safe because Grandma Sita picked up the phone, called you
At the beginning.
You didn't even know the Pentagon had been hit.
Because we couldn't feel anything. We didn't know that it had been hit.
Yeah.
And so Grandma Sita said, are you seeing this on the news? And she told you the Pentagon got hit. And at that moment, the alarm went off for you to evacuate.
Yeah.
And then she lost contact with you until you got to Aunt Susan's house. So that was a really scary moment for all of us. David, Grandma Sita, myself at school. We didn't know if you got out, what happened, where you were. It was very frightening.
We're moving over to the other side for safety reasons.
Okay, it's kind of loud here, but we've left the main path, and we're going to have to cross this road that's a little bit busy to get down to the water where the bike trail is and the footpath. But this is the exact route that our mom took 20 years ago. And back then, there was no traffic. It was pretty much everything was clogged and at a standstill. So it was a lot safer. We're going to try and do this now.
And she said she walked right under the bridge.
Right under the bridge.
Because the traffic was at a standstill.
Right.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little dicey. We have to go up on that. See where those cars are going?
We have to go up that? Okay. Also, it's...
We would have had to walk along there, and I just didn't trust that.
No, that's too narrow.
And it's single file in this tunnel here. Down here.
Yeah, so it would have been 4:30, yeah. Around 4. 4 for 35.
I hope you don't pick up any ticks.
No, okay. Just watch for potholes in this grass.
And then, of course, on 9/11, you wouldn't have seen the airplanes.
I
All
know.
the flights are grounded.
are going right past the Iwo Jima. So we just crossed the intersection back there, or merge. Very crazy. My mom was able to do this back then because there weren't cars flying down the street. It was still pretty vacant. She said by this point though, she was pretty much the only one still walking this distance.
This was the part I was most worried about.
We made it.
This was the most dicey part.
It was pretty dicey, but we made it. Hey, we're about a little over 2 miles into our walk, and we're just past the Iwo Jima Memorial, and now we're entering all the high rises. And what's really cool is a lot of the businesses here put very large American flags on the side of their buildings facing towards the Pentagon. And there's one right in front of us.
I haven't made it yet. Some drivers are so inconsiderate.
Yeah, I agree.
When you get in the shade, I'll leave one.
Okay.
I just sit down.
Yeah, sit down.
This is where the grind happens. This is all uphill now. All
Uphill.
And it's going to be wicked. Wicked. So Mom has to take a break and have some water and rest.
Here.
Oh, thank you. And little sisters, Joanne Hoppa Girl Pontes, keep calm and live aloha.
Aloha.
Here's to you, Joanne.
Hey, Auntie.
Walking up the street here, I was just so exhausted, and all I could think about was getting Gansu's. And I passed diners under an umbrella just like this, and the diners were complaining because the waiter hadn't brought them any ketchup. Can you imagine? The Twin Towers had been bombed, the Shanksville had been bombed, and the Pentagon, and they're worrying about some ketchup? Well, how could they eat out here? You know, that's it.
And you didn't ask for water. You just kept going.
No, actually there was a little grocery store, and I did go in and get a bottle of water.
Was this your first stop? Yeah.
Well, kind of.
For water?
Kind of. Actually more down
Okay.
that way.
Yeah, that's quite a
But
walk.
I did have to have some water.
Yeah, you did, because it's a real long walk.
So yeah, that's one of my interesting stories. There's two stories I always tell about my mom's experience leaving, or our moms. I keep saying our mom's experience evacuating from the Pentagon. And one was when she was left behind by the SUV, and the staff took off to go to Camp David. Was not happy that they pulled up next to you. They threw the general in the car. They grabbed his briefcase, and then they said bye.
5 of the staff.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even more than 5 of the staff. But
Yeah, that.
I was the only lady secretary. Everyone else were military.
I was not happy about that, and you showed such dedication. I mean, you even went back the next day. The Pentagon's still on fire, and you went back to work the next day, got on the bus, did your route, and went back to work. And took the general's
Yeah,
hat.
you saved the general.
The general's hat.
His hat.
3-star
And
beret.
And then the other story is that I usually tell is how you would walk down the street here, and people were just going about like having a normal day and talking about mundane stuff and being concerned about, you know, if they had a ketchup bottle on their table or not. And you're walking by, they didn't know where you came from, how far you've walked, and what you'd seen, and they're just
And not very
clueless.
many friendly faces.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were just worried from what happened.
Maybe it was
But
shock.
the people at the table weren't worried. They were worried
Yeah.
about their hamburger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something is going on over here. Got
Look at that. Look at the building, David.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're just tearing that down, but got
Quick, let's
1,
get 'em
2,
out.
3, 4, 5, 6 canines here. That's probably a when it's at the metro. So not sure what's going on, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 canines here at the metro courthouse station. So we just turned off of Wilson Boulevard into the neighborhoods, and so leaving behind the little restaurants and small businesses. And if anybody knows about this area, it's an awesome little area just off of the main drive. Beautiful little neighborhoods with old houses. And so my mom was able to get back here, and it was just a short distance. You gonna make it, Mom?
Oh, am I?
He's gonna make it.
You gonna make it? Almost there.
He's a survivor. He's a 5-star general, so you
Right?
know, that's how it goes. She's used to campaigns like this.
Fillmore Street. Oh, Fillmore Street.
Mom, you gotta take your time.
Yes,
Oh, I see your car. You made it.
we walked from the Pentagon.
So we'll see what that is, but that does seem like about 3.5 miles.
Close to 4 or 3.5.
Well,
We'll find out when we get up here.
I think it's 4. Sounds more impressive.
That was quite the walk, though.
But
Look at how they changed the old style houses into the new ones.
so during this whole time, I was at my work, or I was at home. I was about to go to work, and I was watching it on the TV, and I called my boss, Leon, and I said, you know, my mom works at the Pentagon, and I can't get a hold of her. Mind if I don't come into work? And he's like, no, absolutely, don't come into work. So I waited at home for a while, took a few phone calls from family, learned that Grandma Cita was back at Mom's house, and so I drove there to be with her until we learned what was going on and that Mom was safe and being taken care of here at Aunt Susan and Uncle Warren's house. They made her some comfort food, gave her some water.
Yep.
Song.
They gave her, they made her grilled cheese and chicken noodle soup. Right, Mom?
This is their house, so
We made it.
we made it, Mom.
You made it, Mom.
I feel like
20 years later.
Let me get a picture of her in the
Yeah, turn around, Mom.
Okay, I'm over
Right
the
here.
steps.
Turn around.
Rocky,
So she made it.
this is Rocky.
And she didn't know if Aunt Susan and Uncle Warren were here, but she knocked on the door, and thankfully they were here and took care of her. And then they even gave her a ride home for us, so we're here.
This is it. Yay.
This is it.
And here she is.
Here she
Where's
is.
Aunt Susan?
Susan.
We gotta get her on film.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're in the backyard of my Aunt Susan and Uncle Warren's house, and they were the saving grace to my mom that day. They took her in and gave her some comfort food, but this is my lovely Aunt Susan. And so you knew we were under attack, right? You saw that on the TV.
Sure, I was following it all on TV, and I knew, somehow I just knew your mother was going to show up.
Because you knew she worked at the Pentagon.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, how in the world is she getting home? You know, and I just had that feeling she's going to show up, and I was on the phone with Maryland Tourism Office in Annapolis. You're discussing, you know, life goes on, you know, and I'm discussing, could you send me some tourist information about Maryland, you know, and that's it. And I hear this knock on the door, and I said to the person on the phone, I said, my cousin, she's come. I'll talk to you later. Bye. And I slammed the phone down. And I went to the door, and I was right. It was your mother.
What did she look like? Did she look pretty disheveled or
No,
frazzled or anything?
No, just tired.
Yeah.
Very tired.
Because we just did that walk, and that was 4 miles that she walked that
That is
day.
unreal. 4 miles. I mean, I couldn't believe it when she told me that she had walked.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I did believe it, but
Yeah.
4 miles. That's a long way when you're used to just sitting at a desk in an office.
Was
you
Uncle
know?
Warren here with you too that day, or
No.
So it's just
No.
you were here.
Yeah. So she came in, and you know, we sat down and talked. I got her some food, and we both had lunch and that sort of thing. And turned on the TV. You know, we just couldn't believe what was happening.
So she was watching it too then when she
Yeah,
was here.
yeah.
That must be so hard, you know, to
It
be
was
watching
just, yeah.
And she just came out of that too.
Yeah. So then eventually, you know, as the afternoon going on, then she got her strength and, yeah, well, I better be going home. You know.
Yeah, because
So what I remember is that we drove down Washington Boulevard to get to 95, and we drove past the Pentagon, and we could still see the smoke. Smoke was still coming.
I'm surprised you could drive past the Pentagon too.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
but-
that. In retrospect, that's what amazed me.
Yeah.
That we weren't stopped, we weren't prevented. We just drove right by, and we looked over and we could see where the crash site was, and that it was still burning. And it took several days, I think, as I recall, for all the fire to go out.
And was amazing, and people like my mom, she went back to work the next day,
Yeah.
and the Pentagon was still on fire, and she's like,
Yeah.
I gotta go back to work, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have had the strength to be like, I'm going back to work where somebody just tried to kill me,
Yeah.
you know, and killed a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. I think she took the day after that off.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
I think it settled in, you know,
Yeah.
as she finally realized, you know,
Yeah.
that was quite an ordeal.
Well, I'm so thankful that you were home that day, and that's cool.
Yeah,
You had
I
a
am
feeling
too.
or something like that in your
You know,
hair, 'cause-
I said to myself, there is absolutely no point of jumping in the car and driving down to Columbia Pike
looking for
and
her, you
looking
never
for
find
her,
her, yeah.
because you know, and traffic was just at a standstill.
Yeah. Because
So
if you weren't here, I don't know what she would have done. She probably just sat on your step
she
until
sat
you
on
would
the
have
step
showed up.
until I came home.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
back then we were talking, there weren't cell phones, so it wasn't.
Right.
I mean, there were cell phones, but it's not like she had a cell phone.
No,
And if anybody did have a cell phone, they weren't really working anyway.
Yeah.
But so it's not like she could have called you in advance saying, "Hey, I'm walking up Wilson. I'll be there in
Right,
30
right.
minutes,"
No.
or even calling me. So
Yeah.